I'll read the announcement. The Board of Commissioners of the City of Mount Juliet will have a public hearing on August 14th at 6:15 to consider the following on second and final reading. The first item is to amend the Mount Juliet Employment Personnel Manual, amend Mount Juliet City Code, Section 257, residency requirements for the Chief of Police and Fire Chief. The second one is to amend City Code fireworks. The third one is the Bluffs at Cedar Creek Land Use Amendment. It's a second reading scheduled for the second reading is actually scheduled for 9/11/23, and will follow with the preliminary master development plan. If you're here to comment on these three items, I'd ask you, or any one of these three items, I'd ask you to come forward at this time, give your name and address for the record, and we'll get you recognized if you're here to comment on these three items. Okay, not seeing anyone for the public hearing, we will adjourn. Mr. Searcy, are you?
Good evening.
Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Larry Searcy, 11677A Lebanon Road, Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
All right. You're recognized for 3 minutes, Mr. Searcy.
I'm here with the Bluff of Cedar Creek Land Use Amendment. I have a few questions about the project itself, and I have some concerns about the project itself if it gets to that point where if it's approved for the land use amendment, then it goes to the project. I'm real close to this property. I'm a property owner that joins this property, and I'm concerned about the blasting that could be done when this project starts. Most of my family's houses are less than 100 foot from the property line. And this property is basically completely rocks and cedar trees. And my concern is for the houses that are close to this property. Also, on the plan, it says an ornamental fence. If someone could explain to me what an ornamental fence is. Ornamental, it's on the plan.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We could get you together.
I had a hard time with that definition.
We can get you together with Miss Hamblin after
Okay.
after the public hearing.
I would like just a regular old woven wire fence would come right down my property line. It'd be just fine.
Worked for years.
And the other thing that I'm concerned about is the commercial at Lebanon Road. By having two entrances there, are we gonna have enough frontage there to put commercial as on those drawings that I've seen? So I wish you would consider that when you get to that point. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to address the Board of Commissioners for the public hearing? All right. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We'll reconvene with a regular scheduled meeting at 6:30. Good evening. Today's date is August 14th, and I'll call the meeting to order, the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners. We have a quorum pursuant to City Code 62210, and we'll proceed with the conducting of the city's business. I just want to take this opportunity and welcome you and thank you for being here and coming to our monthly meeting of the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners. My name is Mayor James Maness, and on behalf of the commission and staff, I want to welcome you here tonight. Tennessee law gives every Tennessean the right to attend city commission meetings and to observe how their government is doing their business. We appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out from your own personal schedules to be here tonight with us to see how this government works. Our first item we have on tonight is the setting of the agenda. I've got some changes. Number 9E, a resolution adopting a policy with the Wilson County school system in order to waive fees for the city of Mount Juliet. That is being removed from the agenda at the request of the sponsor. Also, we have 10-4, an ordinance to amend the land use plan for the property known as Goldenbar Place located at 4403 and 4415. And also 10-5 is request from the applicant for deferral on that. If there's no objection, I'll defer that at said agenda. Hearing no objection on that, 10-4 and 10-5 have been deferred. The last item I would like to introduce under new business consent, which is the agenda item that you have on your tables here, which is an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2023 budget ordinance 2023-24 to increase the funding for a full-time deputy planner. If there's no objection to that, I'll insert that under new business first, new business consent. Hearing no objections, we'll set the agenda as published, absent the changes that were just made. Hearing no objections to that, so the agenda is set. We have before the changes, we had a 168-page packet, a couple items on unfinished business and another 15 under new business. If you do not have a copy of the agenda, you may get one. They're in the wire baskets by the door where you entered. If you're watching remotely online, the agenda is available online there as well to watch. If you're watching remotely, some people say they have better opportunities hearing the meeting over YouTube. So if you're having trouble hearing, YouTube sometimes has a better feed as far as the volume. But the agenda is your guide to the topics that are being discussed tonight. And with that, the agenda is set. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. I'll ask Mr. Beasley, if he would, to come and lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. If y'all will join me in standing before the Lord. Lord, we come to you tonight with gratitude and thankfulness for the protection that you showed our city over this past weekend, Lord. Our thoughts and prayers have been and will continue to be with the individual of the Mount Juliet Fire Department that is in the hospital, that is battling right now in critical condition, Lord. We ask that you use the doctors and nurses, their hands as instruments for you to provide full and complete healing, Lord. We ask that you be with the family, comfort him and give him all the peace and the right words and the right encouragement that he needs, Lord. Also just be with them. Their life has been upended. They've been thrown a curveball, Lord, but we know that you can provide peace that transcends all understanding. Lord, please also be with our first responders that know this individual. Help them to get through the coming days and months. Lord, the job became so real this weekend as not only the fire and police and all the other agencies that ran towards the danger, Lord. We're so blessed to have that bravery within our community. Lord, just please give them the resources to, again, to get out of this situation and to move forward. But when we mention resources, Lord, we also thank you for the resources that this elected body and this city management has given the city to go into a building such as that and to have a favorable outcome where no residents were harmed. And Lord, we can thank you for that. Just help the residents as well, the 76 displaced that Captain Tyler Chandler mentioned today. Help them to find new footing, new ground, and a new way of life, Lord. And that's going to happen through the resources and the generosity that this community continues to provide over the last couple of years, Lord. So we thank you for that. We also uplift our new city judge and our new fire chief, Lord. Please give them wisdom within their dealings. Help them to make a difference and to remind them of why they got into this field and why they do what they do, Lord. The city's in great hands, and we can thank our city administration, our city manager, Kenny Martin, for that. Lord, we got a special group that supports and runs a special city for our elected body, Lord, that puts everything on the line for us every single day, Lord. And we ask all these things in your holy and precious name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. This is from the July 24th meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion, comments? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes carry. The next item on the agenda is citizen comments. So this, in order to conduct an efficient business-like meeting, the commission has adopted some rules on how these meetings will be conducted. Primarily, these rules are designed to keep the meeting moving, assuring all points of views are heard and considered, and provide a common courtesy. In a few moments, we'll reach that place, and we're there now on our agenda. But during that time, anyone wishing to address the commission may do so pursuant to Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 220 of our city code. And the city code grants everyone 3 minutes to speak. And I just ask that you wait your turn to speak and to be addressed first. And at the beginning of the presentation, I'll ask you to give your name and address for the record. And if you have, please address any comments to the mayor. Do not ask questions of the commissioner or staff, and the mayor will ask someone to address the question. The board is under no obligation, though, to respond to questions from the floor. Please avoid the use of inappropriate language, profanity, or other inappropriate conduct. And once the citizen input portion of the meeting is over, the commission will proceed with the remainder of this evening's agenda. And we want to welcome you and wish you to stay with us with our agenda for the rest of the evening. Again, thank you for being here tonight. And with that, I'll open the floor up for citizen comments. Anyone wishing to address can come to the podium.
Okay, hello. My name is Sally Robertson. I live at 423 Willis Pass, Mount Juliet, Tennessee. And I'm here to make a comment about the greenway that the school, West Wilson Middle School is going to build, hopefully. They're mandated to build it. The reason I want to comment is because greenways are very, very important to the city and to me. I am a bike commuter. I like go everywhere by bike. I do drive on occasion. But so greenways are very important to me. And I just want to make sure that that the county school board builds the greenway, their piece of the pie, as I call it. Because without the little pieces, then we're going to have little gaps. Like, for instance, I rode home from Friday. There was an accident in Lebanon. A car hit the train. So I rode home I got the bus to Hermitage, rode home to Mount Juliet. Well, it was so nice to be able to jump on the Townsend Greenway once I got to Green Hill Road. And hopefully the next phase is coming along. It'll go as far as Mount Juliet Elementary School. So it's just really nice to have a safe place to ride. I've been hit too many times by cars, and yeah, it hurts. So we need greenways. So I just want to make sure that the school builds that piece of the pie. Plus, I think there's another development that's going to build another part that go up to that school. So, we just need the pieces of the pie, as I call it. Also, I want to also make a quick comment. I'm not saying anything bad or anything, but I just want to make a quick comment that West Wilson Middle School, my son, who is now in the Navy, he was an Eagle Scout, he built a bike rack for that school, which the school threw away. I mean, it was there for a while. I kept maintaining it, so I kept putting preservative on it, well built, and all of a sudden it's gone. So I was a bit disappointed in the school system there. I'm not saying anything bad about anyone, but I just wanted to comment on that also. The schools don't seem to promote active transportation. So, yeah. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to address the board, please come to the podium.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record,
My name
please.
is Don Holmes. I live at 128 Dahlgren. And I want to continue with the green wave or greenway process. And I oppose this due to safety of the children and safety alone. We have just witnessed in Nashville a situation that we do not want to have occur here. And I think by having access to the schools in the proximity of the greenway, that we might be opening up ourselves to something we would regret. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Steve Caldwell. I'm the president of the Volunteers Bicycle Club. My address is 400 Montgomery Place in Lebanon. So I don't live in Mount Juliet, but we do our bicycling club rides in Mount Juliet, and we love Mount Juliet and what you've been doing with the greenways already. So we'd like to see that continue, and we don't want to see this one stopped. It's and I understand the concern about safety, but we're also concerned about safety with kids out there riding their bikes and other people riding their bikes. They need to be off the roads when possible and have safe ways to get to and from the schools. So that's what we're looking at. And again, I'm not representing BPAC or necessarily the volunteers with an official position, but we live to see commuting possibilities for students, for people who work, and for recreation. We're recreational riders, and we ride on the roads in Mount Juliet, and we love it. But it would be great to be able to have some ways to get across some of the bigger roads without having to cross Lebanon Road and some of the others. And we've moved some of our routes just because of that, because people are concerned. And Mount Juliet's growing, the whole Wilson County is growing, and we just want to make sure that there are safe passages for people. So one thing also to consider, I know that this is on the agenda tonight for agenda item 10.9A, but there may be some alternatives that could be considered in terms of where the greenway is going through the school property. So that's something to think about, maybe going around the perimeter instead of going through the center of it all. That might be something to consider. So thank you. It's nice to meet you all, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to address the board? If you want to, you can form a line.
Rocky Lake Parks Director, I'll be short and sweet. I'm just here to tell Commissioner Justice you were correct, sir.
Thank you.
Your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Jeff Luttrell, address 365 Patton Hollow Road, Watertown, Tennessee. I am here tonight as Director of Wilson County Schools, and very much applaud the efforts of Mount Juliet on the Greenway development. I understand the importance of it. I understand what it makes available to this community, and I fully respect that and appreciate what has been done. This particular Greenway, though, I do have concerns and am against for the one simple fact of safety of students and campuses. The one thing we're learning after the aftermath of some of the tragedies we've encountered around this nation is the importance of being able to secure our campuses. This Greenway does not go around the perimeter, and I agree that there might be some, I would think we would be able to put our heads together and come up with an alternate route. The problem with this Greenway was that it would be right down the heart of two campuses, plus a bus facility and it dead ends at this time, and there's no way to secure that road. So in essence, we would be opening our campus up to all types of traffic. And that's been my whole point from the beginning, is the safety of students. We have today 882 students at Stoner Creek. Eventually that'll be 1,000. West Wilson Middle School will eventually have 1,500 students. And that greenway divides and puts traffic right at the heart of both of those campuses, with athletic facilities sitting there also. So I have major concerns. I've expressed those. I'll be willing to meet and discuss those further. I am willing to find an alternate route, and will do anything that can within my power to make that happen. But I adamantly oppose having a greenway that goes through the middle of campuses that we're trying to secure and protect our students, faculty, and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Erin Moore, and I live at 219 Jackson Trail. I'm here to speak in regards to the parents' rights resolution being proposed. I would like to state that I'm in full support of local government standing up to the recent rounds of overreach perpetrated by the state of Tennessee. The rights of parents of transgender teens have been trampled when it comes to making the best decisions for their children's participation in athletics, the classroom, and access to current best practice medical health care. I would also like to take this a step further and say that I am in full support of individual rights, or full support of individual rights for all. I would love to see this city and our state honor their oaths to protect the rights of the individual to religious freedom or freedom from religion, and bodily autonomy, including the right to access current best practice medical and mental health care. I'm not sure if this resolution would have any actionable items for transgender rights and women's health care, but I admire all who are willing to sign their names to such a resolution. And of course, the only exception to any of these statements would be the government's duty to safeguard overall public health. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to address the Board of Commissioners?
Nathan Quinn, 402 B&A Drive.
Thank you.
Just requesting to reserve my time when the items heard on the agenda, 10.6.
And they may call for representation at that point.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello. Name and address for the record, please.
Carrie Brandon, 401 Old Pleasant Grove Road,
Mhm.
number 1312. First of all, thank you, Jennifer, for letting me know I could come speak tonight. This is kind of my formal way of introducing myself to the community. A little more lighthearted topic tonight. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to the mayor. I live at Glass Creek, and we weren't affected. We were in a different building, but I can tell you, watching it was absolutely heartbreaking. So I appreciate everything that the city has done to help everybody involved, including the firefighter. We hope that, of course, he does better and gets through this. Anyways, my name is Carrie Brandon. I have a new at-home business right now. It's called Mama Bird Bakery. And I just wanted to formally introduce myself to the community. I am actually new to Mount Juliet since March. I moved from Arizona, and we left for a couple reasons. One, we wanted to be closer to family. We wanted to also be in a community that had better values, because I have a 5-year-old that I adopted. So that was a question. Then the third reason is because my pale body was sick of the heat. So I said, that's enough of that. So we came out here, and I can tell you, I'm very, very pleased so far with the welcome nature, the values I've seen so far. It's been very welcoming, and we are very appreciative of that. I'm a bakery and pastry chef. I was educated at Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. And at some point, we do intend on opening a storefront. It's going to take a little bit of time to do so, but the biggest thing for us right now, myself, my son, and my partner, Tim, he couldn't be here tonight because he's watching my son, but we are all very focused on the community. I've already been out in the community. Some people may have seen me already or have not. I plan on continuing that. And I have an Outreach Friday program right now to highlight businesses that are, doing some great work. So I just wanted to say hello. Got some treats up here for everybody. I hope you enjoy them. And I look forward to getting to know everybody.
Well, thank you and welcome to
you.
the city and congratulations on the business. Arizona rejected me too as a pale redhead. Is there anyone else to address the Board of Commissioners? All right, seeing none, we will close the citizen comments, move to commissioner reports and comments. With that, I'll recognize Commissioner Justice for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. As you can imagine, with the tragedy that occurred over the weekend, our hearts go out to those that are victims of the Glass Creek fires. I've seen way too many of those kind of incidents, and so our hearts do go out. Our prayers as well go out to that everybody and they find themselves today in a better place than they were Saturday. So I would also like to thank our firefighters and our police officers for the exemplary job, not only that they did on Saturday, but the job that they do every single day. We spent a lot of time over the years talking about our police department and our fire department, putting the fire department together. We didn't know the tragedy that would strike when it did, but very obviously our fire department and our police department were both prepared for it. That didn't come by accident. And so we have a firefighter who is in the hospital. He is doing better today than he was yesterday. He's breathing. His family is extremely ecstatic that he is still alive, and it was due to some quick thinking on the parts of lots of different people. Our prayers would not only go out to him and his family. He's a genuine hero, just like the rest of them are. And as I said, our prayers go out to him and his family. And our prayers will also go to the doctors that are treating him and taking care of him. So want to thank them, those that stepped up in the community and those with the good thoughts and the good prayers. Thank you. Thank you very much. There are resources that we've got access to that are going to come through MJ for Hope. I think I was told there was a GoFundMe. We can probably find out that information. I'm not familiar with that particular information, but we have a nonprofit that is MJ for Hope here in Mount Juliet, and money can be sent there that will go to that firefighter and his family and the families, I believe, of the other victims in Glass Creek. And so, again, keep everybody in your thoughts and your prayers, and be getting a chance to lift them up. Once again, to the firefighters, great job. We first real test, and they measured up 150%. To the young lady who is here from Arizona, welcome to Mount Juliet. Like the mayor, I was also rejected by the heat that is Arizona. I went into a place and asked for a glass of sweet tea, and they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I told them, I said, well, maybe it's just a Tennessee thing. I don't know. And then I was talking about the heat, and they said it was a dry heat. And my response was, so is my oven, but I ain't getting in it. It's hot. I left quickly, as fast as I could. So welcome to Mount Juliet. And if the humidity doesn't get you, it'll be okay. Come this winter, you'll be fine. I would also like to take a second. Commissioner Hefner's not here tonight. He got called out of town suddenly for a business trip that he could not get out of. But for the other commissioners, and I hope I'm not violating sunshine law. I hope we weren't, but we were actually on text messages talking and going back and forth and getting status updates from our fire chief and from Kenny Martin. Every commissioner was on there and every commissioner was doing a part. So every commissioner, I've been up here for 20 years. I've seen the good and I've seen the bad and I've seen the ugly. Unfortunately, I'm part of the ugly. But we have got some of the best people up here that I've had an opportunity to serve with. So don't get to say it very often, but when it comes to family and friends and community, these guys are top notch. And so I want to thank y'all. That's all.
Thank you, sir. That I'll recognize our Vice Mayor Trevette.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Justice, Commissioner Justice, for those kind words. Yes, to the nice lady from Arizona, welcome. I did try out some pastries and they're delicious. So looking forward to seeing you out there, in the next chapter of your career. So whatever that entails. So thank you for the family and friends that came out tonight. Over the last couple weeks, I've gotten so many text messages, phone calls, emails. I think I am caught up this week. And if I missed you, I do apologize. I'm just going to go ahead and ask somebody to go ahead and send that back out to me, an email or a phone call if I did miss it. But I believe through all the communications with our different departments, I think I've answered everybody's questions. So I appreciate that. Congratulations to our new judge, Mr. Chandler. He was actually here earlier, and it's just another opportunity for him to serve our community and just do a great job and, to move on to the next chapter of our appointed judges, excuse me. So thoughts and prayers for the firefighter. I'll tell you, folks, there's two things that I love about our community that I support so much, which is our students. And thank you to the board members that are here, as well as our school director that's here tonight. I've been to many of your guys' meetings, so it's kind of different to be able to see all the, like the reversal here. But it's just great. There's two things that I do support here is obviously our students and our first responders. And I talk about this all the time is that, if we support those two things right there, that people will rush to move here to this great city, as well as the county. We've got the best school board. We've got an amazing city, and we are doing our best to just continue on with so many that have helped build what we have today. With the families that have been displaced, I'll tell you, my family and I we actually were in a fire when we were kids, and just that, the displacement, the smell, the memories, it's terrible. So my thoughts and prayers go out to them. Also those kids, because again, it's something you're going to live with for the rest of your life. Every time you smell something, that just brings back those bad memories. So, but our firefighters, to get into this, our police, our EMTs, this board up here, I'll tell you, we have made some, a lot of discussions, a lot of challenges, whether if the city supports it or not, or even some folks, let's just say, that do or do not support it. We continue to strive for safety, and we look for the best technology that's out there. I always talk to our different chiefs, our captains, even our officers in each department, and ask them, hey, what is it that you need? What is it that we need to improve in? So for me, it's always, asking the boots on the ground, because those are the men and women that are constantly running into those emergencies as we're all running out. So just thank you to all those folks that are, continue to support our community as well as protect us. The last thing here, obviously coming up on Wednesday, I'll tell you, folks, like my family, we moved here back in 2013, and it has been a blessing. I'm a big Cincinnati fan, but I'll tell you, it's changed. I've been here going on 10 years. Actually, this past month has been 10 years in this great city. And by far, it was the best move that me and my family could have ever done. And actually, this Wednesday is actually my wife's 26-year anniversary. So I just want to wish her a happy anniversary. I love you, Michelle. She is, the blessing. Everybody asks, Bill, how do you do everything that you do? You know, being part of an HOA board, being part of the city, being part of the parks, working full time, being a dad, and just volunteering all my services in every other area, excuse me, to continue to be the best neighbor. You know, when my neighbors call, something breaks, I'll do whatever I can to help them out. You know, but I do it because of her, and she's the rock that helps me out. So she's the one that keeps me in line. And for some odd reason, these 3 cell phones up here, she always keeps me in line as well as those. So it's kind of just a blessing there. So, but I'm very blessed, husband and father of 3, and just want to say, you know, happy anniversary. So, Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we'll recognize Commissioner Mullally.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight and speaking your mind, whatever it is. I always appreciate public comments. Even though we may not agree on things, always respect your time and coming here and speaking out on whatever it is, whether you support something or oppose it. Today is my one and only grandson's 4th birthday, and so excited about that. We had his party yesterday, so shout out to him. And of course, what everyone else has said already about the fire, the devastating fire, and it's just amazing. No residents were injured. And I just thank all the volunteers and the Red Cross and the nonprofits who have stepped up to provide for everyone on the residents, and continue to lift them up in prayer and thought, and our firefighter as well. And I think he's been upgraded from critical to stable but critical. So, but he's still critical. I'm sure it's going to take some time for that. So, but, and again, thank everyone again for our first responders who were on the scene and have done everything else, even behind the scenes. Let's see. Also, I mentioned Hawaii. I don't know if you've ever been to Hawaii. I haven't. My sister and mother have, but that's a terrible thing as well. I just wanted to mention that. Thank Carrie for coming out and bringing your goodies. I had a cookie. It was delicious, and I've got a brownie for later. Can't wait to try it. And again, congratulations to Judge Chandler to be our new city judge, and thank you for Carolyn in your service. I guess she left, but I thank her for her many years of service as well. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just add, wow, we've come a long ways in 10 years, not quite 10 years with our fire department, and they really made us proud over this weekend with the response and the seamless way they worked together with the police department, and clearing the building and the surrounding buildings from that to make sure everybody made it out safely. Even there after the fire was brought under control and able to rescue the pets that they did after the fact. When I was watching that and the winds were blowing through there and the flames were as long as the building, I didn't know how anybody or anything could have survived through there. But, you know, we had a good fire department that did their jobs that day, and maybe we had some help along the way with that. So I appreciate all their efforts and all the hard work that they did. There are probably a few people that have called me today. I haven't been able to get back to you. My phone has been blown up ever since this happened, and I've got to say, once again, Mount Juliet, you've really shown out. Everybody from the residents that call it home to the businesses here, the number of people just reaching out to support, even trying to leave church and people are stopping, wanting to know, can we host people at our home? What can we do? How can we help? Businesses, I mean, it's in some ways it's like what happened with the tornado. It's just become an effort, and the police department and others have gotten really good at, and our chaplains have gotten really good at coordinating these events. And, you know, it runs really seamlessly. So we've got, again, just a community that steps up and really puts things first. But with our firefighter, I would just ask that everybody that's involved with that situation just respect the family's privacy. But more importantly, I've just asked if you pray, say a prayer for him, say a prayer for the family, for a quick recovery that gets back out there. This is someone that's, set self and personal safety aside to go in and help someone else and put them before themselves. And, you can say it's part of the job, and every day, every one of our public safety folks that works for us in public safety that serves this city knows and understands that risk, but we don't want to ever see it here in this city. And I'm just grateful for the fast actions that we saw there on site when the Mayday call went out and how everybody responded, and they did what they had to do to get our firefighter the help that he needed. And, there's a lot to that story. There's a lot that went on that Saturday, and I just appreciate the efforts of everyone involved, the coordination, all the hours of training that have been put in, all of those things that have come together, the resources that this commission has supported over the years to be able to do that for our community, and of course the taxpayers that have supported this and the calls along the way. So I appreciate that. I'm going to recognize our city manager. Sir, you are recognized for your comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for everybody that's come out tonight. Thank you, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and those watching from home that can't be here tonight. I'll echo the sentiments of everybody here tonight. The most important thing is, which this city's always done, is put public safety and human life first. And I'm very proud of that and proud and thankful for that. I think it's a perfect example this weekend. Send a message from the family of the firefighter and the residents of Glass Creek Apartments to say thank you to all the people that have been praying and offering up support. The family in particular, the wife was most moved by the fact that she was called a hero, and their family's called a hero along with her husband. And the firefighters that went in were actually knocking on doors to try to notify folks that the building was on fire to get people to go out of the buildings themselves. So they are indeed heroes, and everybody took care of one another in the police department. So I'm very proud of that. But I have a few just thank yous to give out into particular, and I'd like to thank Mayor Hutto and Mayor Bell for offering up services that day if we needed them through mutual aid, and their departments, which are always fantastic and first to partner with us, including the Sheriff's Department of Wilson County. I'd like to thank our school director, Jeff Luttrell, for what his folks have been doing behind the scenes to get these families taken care of with schools starting and our school started and helping them with things of that nature. That's most important. I'd like to thank all of our local hotels and even some of the other apartment complexes that stepped up to provide housing and for these folks to find new homes to try to get their lives somewhat back in quick order as quick as they can, even though their lives have been turned upside down. Of course, everyone's Wilson, Mount Juliet for Hope, all of our church community, and the Red Cross, which was most responsive. I learned a lot about the Red Cross this weekend and appreciate them taking my many, many calls. We spoke no less than 15 times, and we just have an absolutely wonderful community that's blessed beyond belief. And I'd like to thank Summit Hospital and also Skyline Hospital, the Metro Police Department, and the Metro Fire Department, because while we were in the emergency room and for those that got to go down, we knew that everybody couldn't go. They sent lots and lots of representatives by, and it was a true family to realize, makes you realize just how close the communities of Nashville, Goodlettsville, Lebanon, and you name it, are one big family. When you have a disaster like that, everybody comes together. And in particular, I'd like to thank the Lebanon Fire Department, the Laverne Fire Department, and Goodlettsville Fire Department, which will be coming up here this Thursday to fill in. So if you see those representatives in your community wearing their gear, they're going to come up here for the day and take all of our calls for that day so that our fire department personnel can get together basically and debrief, decompress, pray together, love one another together. We'll have what's called engineers with each of them. So they can show them where to go. So they're not familiar with our community, but those firefighters are going to step up and protect our community on Thursday so that our firefighters can have a day just to sort of debrief, decompress, and pray. As you can imagine, they're moved by something like this that happens to them. We've had a tragedy back in 2003 that we all had to live through, and you saw what we did there, and we're going to do the same thing here. And we're just very, very fortunate that it could have been so much worse. So thank you, everybody. I could say enough for that other than just to say thank you for those that are out there, and wish I could recognize everybody's name, but you know who you are and you know what you're doing, and thank God for wonderful human beings. And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Before we move into the business portion, I do have a note that was laid up here on my desk, and I think there is a Mr. Jacob Sullivan here in the house. You need to stand up, sir. He is here for his merit badge citizenship in the community with Troop 263. Is that correct? All right. You ready to give your speech? All right. We'll let it slide. All right. We'll move into the new business portion, the business portion of our meeting here. I'll read item number 8.1 on the record, an ordinance of the City of Mount Juliet to amend the Mount Juliet City Code, Article 6 fireworks and Section 1631 fireworks. Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? 8.1 carries on second and final reading. And we'll move to our unfinished portion, non-consent items, so second reading, which is 9.1, an ordinance of the City of Mount Juliet to amend the City of Mount Juliet Employee Personnel Manual and the Mount Juliet City Code Section 257A by amending the residency requirements for the Chief of Police and the Fire Chief, and to correct City Code Section 257A to match the Personnel Manual. Have a motion? Second. The items on the table. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries by a vote of 3-1. Now we reach the portion to our new business consent agenda. I'll read the items for the record. Item number A, which is a resolution affirming parental rights as the primary decision maker for minor children in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. B, a resolution approving the agreement between the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee and the Tennessee Department of Transportation, TDOT, for the South Green Hills Railroad Crossing and Signal Improvements Project, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. C, a resolution approving the award of the construction contract for the Lebanon Road Sidewalk Phase 2 project, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. And D, a resolution to amend the public record request policy for the City of Mount Juliet. E has been deferred by the sponsor. And then we had one more submitted at the table, which is an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 23-24 budget ordinance 23-24 to increase the funds for the full-time planner. Is there a motion for these? Motion and a second. Any discussion on these 5 items? Commissioner Maletti?
I just want to say I give kudos to Mayor Manis for sponsoring this resolution and bringing it forward. I agree with every word of it because I believe our minor children belong to the parents, not the government nor the school system. The state law, TCA 491227, clearly states that public parents are the decision makers of their minor children, and I'm proud to support it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? We'll say I did see a couple calls about that, asking if a parental note would exclude children from the responsibilities of law enforcement. No, and it will not supersede any other laws. All right. All in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda carries. Next item on the agenda is under new business 10.1, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget ordinance 2023-2024 and appropriate funds for the Lebanon Road Sidewalk Phase 2 project. This is actually new business consent. So I read the rest. 10.2, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2002-25 regarding bidding procedures and the city manager purchases. 10.3, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget ordinance 2023-2024 to increase the funding for community grants.
Motion.
You got a motion? Is there a second on these 3 items?
You just read
10.1, 10.2, 10.3.
3. Okay, so they're not all on the consent.
They are on consent, yes.
They're just the first 3. Okay,
Yes, ma'am. Is that a second?
that's the second.
That's a second. All right. Any questions or comments on these 3 items? All right. All in favor of these 3 items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The 3 items on consent carry. The next item is ordinance 1, first reading, which is 10.4, which was deferred at the request of the applicant. 10.5, which was also deferred at the request of applicant, and those were deferred during said agenda, bringing us to 10.6, review the preliminary master development plan for PUD, including the rezone from RS40, CRC, and CG to RM8 PUD and CRC PUD for the bluffs at Cedar Creek located on Lebanon Road. Have a motion? Is there a second on this? I have a second.
I'm going to second.
Okay, all right. 10-6 is on the table. Any questions or comments on 10-6?
Yeah.
Commissioner Mullally.
Can we hear from the developer?
Do we have representation? I see representation.
Good evening, Joe Haddix, CSDG.
I read the wrong header, didn't I? Did I read 10-5? Okay, so we're on 10-6. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Moment of clarity. And this is on the preliminary master PUD and including the rezone. So what's your question for the applicant, Commissioner?
I had asked the developer to provide a letter from the school system which is on the, well, it was on the agenda tonight, but it's coming back, next reading, I guess, to provide a letter from the school system talking about capacity and whether they say they can handle new students or not. Do you have such a letter?
We do not have the letter in our possession. However, recently, I believe Commissioner Hefner had created some maps or had the staff create some maps with the school data, combining that with proposed, approved, and current developments within the community. I left it in my folder back of the chair, but I'll be right back. So, apologies for that. So, based on the maps, if we start at the elementary school level, this project would be zoned for W.A. Wright Elementary, which has a current capacity of 665. Now that's capacity. Has a current enrollment of 520 students. Okay. If we look at the approved projects and proposed projects within the W.A. Wright zone, you're proposing 953 total units within the zone of new development, including the Bluffs project. So if we use a standard multiplier of 0.323 students per household, which factors in single family and apartments, you would anticipate 307 students out of the 953 proposed homes. Okay, so 953 equates to 357 students. Of the 307, we do have data working with the school system on past projects. We would anticipate somewhere around 45% of the new homes coming in are more to the elementary school side. So young families moving into the community, which I think all of y'all have seen. So of the 307 proposed at 45%, conservatively, you could estimate 140 elementary school students of the new proposed developments. So if I take the 140 anticipated plus the 520 current enrollment, I'm at 660 students, which is 5 less than the core capacity of W.A. Wright.
All right. And the very last column on the capacity is what percent total capacity? Or do you have that? You might not have that.
The total capacity or the
Yeah,
core
you may not.
capacity of
You may
W.A.
not have
Wright?
that chart. Sorry.
Yeah, the core capacity of W.A. Wright is 665 students.
Well, I mean percentage.
Oh, the proposed developments within the zone would put W.A. Wright right at the capacity of W.A. Wright, assuming 40% of the 30% of the students are elementary.
Okay, in middle school?
Middle school. All right. This project would be zoned for Mount Juliet Middle, which anticipated 1,552 proposed units in the Mount Juliet Middle zone. Using the same multiplier, we would anticipate 501 students. We see a slightly lower percentage going to the middle school. So if we were at 45 for elementary, we would be somewhere around the 25% for the middle school students, which equates to 126 anticipated middle school students. Current enrollment at Mount Juliet Middle is 1,023 students with a core capacity of 1,330 students. So if I take the 1,023 plus the anticipated 126, I'm at 1,149, which is 181 students under capacity at that school, and factoring in the proposed development.
Okay, high school.
Site is zoned for Green Hill High School. We have the same 1,552 proposed units in that zone. Green Hill and Mount Juliet Middle are approximately the same zone geographically. We would anticipate 501 students total. High school students were around 29% anticipated based on historical data. So of the 501 students, we would anticipate 146 of those being high school students. Green Hill High School has a current enrollment of 1,661 of a 2,000 student core. So if I add the 146 proposed to the 1,661, I'm at 1,807, which is 193 students less than the core capacity of the high school.
All right. At planning, were any conditions put in on blasting?
Comment for us. Sorry.
To reduce the shot by half and to extend the perimeter? Both of those were included.
If it's not written in here, we can add it.
Okay.
But I believe it was.
Okay, because that was one of Mr. Cersei's concerns. One of my concerns too, it's not, all right. One of well, he didn't mention it, but I always ask, the water runoff onto his property, is it lower than, I'm picturing it to be lower than this project, but you know where I'm talking about, Mr. Cersei's property?
There are small portions, mainly towards the rear of the site, that could drain back to Mr. Cersei's property, but the majority of it either runs due east to kind of towards behind Burger King or to the creek.
Okay, so what would you do to keep the water off of his property? Would it require another
Based on
detention pond?
Detention pond, yeah. Based on, current city standards, and Shane can attest to this, we would likely take all the rooftop water and the development water, and we're running it through a BMP or pond, treating it and likely taking it directly to the creek and not discharging towards Mr. Searcy.
The fence that he brought up, the ornamental fence, that's what what about the fence he was asking about, Mr. Cersei, the ornamental fence? Was anything about that mentioned at Planning Commission?
Let's let our city planner address that.
Thank you. They had actually asked for a variance to provide an ornamental fence around the perimeter rather than the opaque 6-foot high privacy fence. We supported the variance, except had the caveat in there that where they abut current residentially zoned lots, that we would request a privacy fence on the property line at that location rather than that ornamental fence that they had asked for. So in other places within the development, an ornamental iron or PVC, the like fence would be required per their variance if that's approved, except for where that development abuts residential, like single family residential. And in those locations, planning staff has asked for a privacy fence there on the property line.
Okay.
Because you can see through those ornamental fencing. So I was trying to protect the privacy of those residential districts.
Okay. Was Mr. Cersei okay with that?
I believe he was when I spoke with him earlier. He's just concerned more about his livestock. So he currently has hot wire there. So his livestock would have to get through his hot wire and a privacy fence. I think that would serve him better than the ornamental iron.
Okay. The rentals, was that addressed at planning?
I don't believe, we never asked for that at planning. That will have to come from the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. Because we typically put a 10% rental cap. By the way, these are townhomes for sale. That includes commercial. And we typically put a 10% rental cap on the entire development. And that no one owner could own more than two. So, okay, so those were my questions for the
Okay.
developer.
Yes, sir.
One cat, Nathan Quinn, 402 B&A Drive. Sorry, I stepped out a second ago. I thought y'all were running through the non-consent items and I picked a bad moment. But thanks for the opportunity to speak. The question about the rental units, we wanted to reserve that to the townhome portion of the community and allow that the commercial portion in the front, the units above be allowed to be all for rent, and reserve the 10% for sale units in the townhome portion in the rear of the site. The 10% caveat.
Wouldn't that make them apartments? Or still, they would be townhomes?
The units in the townhomes are 100% townhomes. There's a presentation where we can actually look at, make sure we're talking about the same portion. Make it a little bit easier to communicate. And I do not have a laser pointer with me, but the commercial portion in the front, those two commercial buildings actually have, is where we've asked for the residential use permit. Thank you very much. If I were a laser. Hey, now we're cooking. All right. Thank you very much. So this portion up here that we requested to keep the current CRC zoning and ask for a residential use permit, those would actually be similar to a product that you'd see here, where the first floor would be true commercial, the entire floor and the property above would be condos. And typically the way those are built, it'd be one commercial builder would build the entire structure, and the portions above would be typically for rent apartments or condos, whichever word you'd like to use. But all of the townhomes in the rear of the site is what we would say we could keep capped at for sale. No more than one owner can own any 2 units, and cap it at 10% rentals. Does that answer your question?
What's the number split on those?
There's 170 townhomes in the rear RM8 portion of the site, and then we requested 10 additional condo units above the
Okay.
commercial in the front.
And Commissioner Justice is asking to be recognized now.
The fencing issue, Mr. Searcy was concerned about. I know we're talking about the ornamental. I realized what you were talking about after the fact, but you're talking about the ornamental part of the fencing, and there should be no ornamental or PVC fencing or anything else where there's livestock involved. There's a mesh fence that is used for cattle and for livestock, and that's what needs to go up there. And I don't think there's anything that needs to be replaced. Mr. Searcy, is that correct? Would you agree with that? Okay. So, I mean, first of all, those PVC fence are supposed to be, I'm not sure what they call them. Basically what they are is really, really ugly. And so, I mean, the cattle are going to be offended. We just need to put up a livestock fence and be done with it. Just don't get crazy.
Absolutely. We're happy to work with Mr. Searcy on what would be the best fencing for that area. And then we also are going to preserve as many trees along the edge of the property, those existing mature trees. And then we'll just reinforce that with the landscape buffer to provide visual screening. And in the process, we'll also install whatever the appropriate type of fence is to keep people out and keep cattle in.
Okay. The other part that I've got a little bit of an issue with, if we're going to have rental units at all up there, which I don't typically like that, given the circumstances with the residential below, somebody buying a long-term, purchasing a long-term unit, it's just probably not going to happen above a retail establishment. So, I mean, I don't know. But I do have a little bit of a problem with the rest of them being more than one owner owning more than 2 units. At that point, one owner needs to only own 1 unit. And that needs to be written into the covenants and restrictions. And there probably needs to be something in there that says that those covenants and restrictions will not be changed without the express commission or permission from this Board of Commissioners.
That's something we can agree to, Commissioner Justice.
Okay. Yes, actually, I would like to amend that if I could, make that my amendment.
Can you repeat the amendment, please?
That no more than, or only, each owner can own 1 unit, no more than 1 unit. That's to go along with Commissioner Mullally was talking about the number of rentals, 10%, I think it is. And I would like to, because of the fact that we're doing the rentals in the front, I would like to take that down to 5%. Also, that this will be written into the covenants and restrictions and approved by this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Your motion was initially, at least, was the owner. No owner can own any more than 1 unit.
Correct.
And you're applying this to the townhomes only.
Yes.
Okay, and then and only a total of 5% of those can be rental.
Correct.
All right.
Of the entire.
For the townhomes.
Correct.
Or the entire development.
Just for the townhomes.
Okay.
The other
5%
will
of
be-
townhomes.
yeah.
And Commissioner Justice, the RM8 portion will be its own HOA, and then we would classify the subsection for the condos in the commercial would be a sub HOA.
So it'd be a POA, actually, Property Owners Association rather than HOA. I'd also like to make sure that it's written into the covenants and restrictions that those particular articles of operation cannot be changed without the express consent of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Mount Juliet.
Talking about your amendment or the covenants?
After they've been approved by us, they cannot be changed by a board of directors in the HOA.
We don't approve the covenants.
Well, as it comes through as the PUD, we approve the covenants and restrictions in a joint package.
Okay.
We do not.
Well, we will now.
City planner?
We actually do not.
Can we not do that?
Our attorney approves those to make sure that they match up with the conditions that.
The conditions in the PUD.
Okay,
But
as long as
it's
it's
still-
approved. We want to make sure that it don't get approved or changed later on. How do we do that?
You just made that condition.
Okay.
By making it law in the PUD.
Okay. So it works.
So the motion was no one can own any more than 1 unit and a maximum of 5% of the townhomes may be used for rental.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Commissioner Mullally?
Just a question. Would this be the one owner thing would be a precedent we would move forward on other developments as they come to the table?
Commissioner?
My thought on that is when you start mixing rental property with that to be purchased, that, yeah, it could be. It could be a standard that we set. I want to do everything I can do to lower the amount of rental. I don't want a bunch of rental in my district. We've got some of these evil rental companies that have come here and buying up the individual properties that we've got in here and then, causing problems within our city, as we all know. I want to make sure we discourage that at every opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree. I just didn't know if we were going to apply this to other developments or this one specifically because it has, did you say 10 rentals above the commercial?
That's what we're requesting, yes.
A total of 10.
All the townhomes, we're happy to agree with Commissioner Justice's request for one owner and 5% rentals, and then we're asking that the sub-association for the commercial portion allow all rentals.
So it's a total of 10 units,
Correct, in the commercial portion.
no more than 10.
That's
10
what we're looking
max.
into. 170 townhomes are what you see here in the RM8 portion, and we're adding an additional 10 units maximum in the CRC PUD portion.
All right. Commissioner.
I want to make sure that the folks in our friend from Arizona, we're not talking about the apartments. This is a completely separate issue that we've got. We've got some single family, some people who buy, and they're large companies that buy the single family residences in the side of our city. And when they do that, a lot of times they're hard to control. And some of the people they bring in, they don't vet those people. So it's become, and they've done that in quite a few of our subdivisions around town. So it doesn't have anything to do with the apartments. It has to do with single family residences that are being purchased and some folks being put in there and they're not taking care of things the way they should be.
Yeah, that's a good point. The apartments are almost preferable in the sense that you have on-site management there for the apartments. When you start scattering them all over town and single-family homes here and there, it can get a little taxing on codes sometimes.
Yeah.
And also doesn't generate as much tax for our friends at the school system neither. So, Vice Mayor, did you have questions about the amendment or just about the?
Just about, well, let's go ahead and get through the amendment and then we can go through. the
Okay.
rest of it.
Do we have any other questions on the amendment? All right, all in favor of the amendment, no more than one unit maximum may be rented per owner and a maximum of 5% rentals in the townhome. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're back on the ordinance as once amended. Vice Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I just want to go back to the numbers just real quick, because I did ask our city recorder just to be able to hit those numbers. So we had 140, 120, 146. Is that correct? And I apologize for having you go back through the numbers, but you said a total of 501 total students. And I understand that these are just numbers that are thrown out of just statistics. But however, if the 140, 120, 146, we're still missing right around 95 students. So that's why I just want to make sure my numbers are adding up is correct. I wasn't fortunate enough to go to Mount Juliet High School either. So, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
so where's the other,
You are,
where's the other 95 students going? Because if we're already maxed out in the elementary, we're already almost maxed out in middle school and the high schools. And that's not including students that are still coming into the rest of the districts. That's another concern of mine.
I think where the difference is on the elementary zone is that the WA Wright zone is split with Lakeview, which kind
Sure.
of makes up the Green Hill and the Mount Juliet middle zones. So that's the difference.
So,
What I would.
so this is why this commission has been very involved with making sure that we're transparent. We want every developer to get in contact with our school boards to be able to make sure that they have a plan in place to look long-term. So that's one of my concerns. That's why I'm very much not a fan of this project quite yet. Obviously, I mean, like we want affordable living somewhere within our city, and this is, an opportunity here, but just a great example of why we are, in a sense, putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. So the second question is going back to the developer. You had mentioned that you were going to add some additional amenities. I don't see them on here. I think there was going to be some additional, because a walking path, you were looking at maybe potentially moving the pools down to the middle area there, along with maybe the clubhouse to be more even balanced, so nobody would have to worry about trying to commute back and forth. It was going to be more of a centralized. Did that not happen, or was that not an option there?
For ease of not submitting multiple versions of a plan set to staff, that's something that when we get to the FMDP portion of the plan, if we need to tweak the layout slightly because we feel it'll function better or flow better for the community, that we'll make those changes then. But right now, all the amenities you see here on this site, we have over a mile of walking trails. We actually extend the greenway portion on our property all the way up and along the bluffs. So as that continues to piece together, it'll allow all the residents of Mount Juliet to walk and enjoy one of the great views along this property that overlooks Cedar Creek. We have a 2,000 square foot clubhouse, and we have a 2,500 square foot pool. We have a half-acre dog park in the rear of the site, and there's also a lot of open pasture down there that we will keep as open fields for residents to utilize how they see fit. And one of the great things about this community as well is a lot of times with these alley loaded products, you have 3 roads. You have a road behind, and a road in the front. And what we've tried to do here is eliminate that central boulevard road, and you can adjust it as you see fit, or you can put one main pathway down the middle, or you can make it a park throughout. But this linear park that you see allows anyone with kids or dogs to park their vehicle in their garage, walk out their front door with their kid on a bike or with their dog on a leash, and enjoy this park, be able to sit outside on their front porch, allow their kid to ride their bike, and not have to worry about a car driving by or their kid falling into traffic or chasing a ball in the traffic. So what we try to do here is create a sense of community by, instead of it being a sea of pavement and asphalt, making a real space where people can come together and not worry about vehicles and watching their kids and hovering over their children while they play. And we think that's one of the great things that this does, while making a product affordable for people that may not want to worry about lawn care and maintenance. So what we've tried to do here is give you all the sense of community, a lot of sense of open space without having to worry about maintaining that.
So thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
I agree. Safety is very important. For this first phase up here, and again, I know we're not really getting into this quite yet, but I do want to just kind of get your opinion on this. So the commercial, the mixed use up in the front, obviously, I mean, because the first discussion that we had was going to be more towards all commercial, some type of businesses up there, office spaces, and now we're moving it to a mixed use. I understand that we're having some challenges with another project that's similar, which is townhomes and then commercial up front. Is there a reason why we keep splitting this back up to go from commercial when it's initially brought to the board as commercial and then residential in the back, and now we're having to revamp this back up? Can you go and can you elaborate that on, just a little bit for us?
Sure, absolutely. And appreciate you bringing that up, Vice Mayor Trevette. This property we originally, when we brought to staff, was all townhomes. And because of the unique shape of the property, and because you don't necessarily want to put commercial, especially the type of commercial that people want to go utilize, like restaurants and retail space, so far back from a major thoroughfare, what we tried to do was create something that functions well individually, but also supports this undeveloped commercial property for future build out. And the way we did that was we talked with all the adjacent property owners, the ones up here that actually have the Lebanon Road frontage, and then the ones that's actually to the east going back towards Mount Juliet Commons. And from talking with them and understanding the visions they have for their properties, we're actually able to design our infrastructure to support it directly and allow that to be the main entrance and not have driveway after driveway along Lebanon Road. And by understanding what's going to happen here, it also supports future connectivity to Meb Court. And we've actually are working with our engineers and traffic engineers to determine the best way to go ahead and add an intersection at Lebanon Road as part of our improvements. Sorry, not an intersection, excuse me. To add a traffic signal at Lebanon Road, because we have direct alignment with Morningside Drive. And that will also encourage the addition of future commercial. And the other improvement we're proposing from working with staff and Andy Barlow before he left, and Matt as well, was making improvements to Mount Juliet Road at Lebanon Road and increase the lane width and add an additional through lane. And we can do that within the limits of the sidewalks. And the goal being to make that 6 lanes instead of 5, allow direct movements across to Mount Juliet Commons, and really do something that we can make an improvement at night and with minimal impact to the motoring public to support connectivity and to support the flow of traffic through this area. And we think being able to do this at night is going to create direct impact and improvement for the city. The streets within the community are private as well, so that would be minimal impact on the city infrastructure as well. And Mayor Manna spoke to this at Planning Commission. Townhomes build schools, and single family detached fills them up.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Not this time.
Commissioner Mullally?
I think that should say North Mount Juliet Road.
Oh, busted. You got me. Sorry about that. Thank you.
We can fix that one as well. Commissioner Justice?
I just noticed South Mount Juliet Road. I'll be voting against this project now. Thank you. I'm joking. And I wanted to clarify for Vice Mayor, I'm the one who requested that commercial because when they actually came and started talking to us about this, they had asked about doing the all townhomes. Commissioner Hefner had requested on the other project about concerning the commercial. Unfortunately, the very front of this is not for sale, was not for sale. So, I mean, it wasn't anything they could do with this particular section of it. And so all I knew was that this section could be commercial. And I thought maybe that might be something they'd be interested in doing. And then they took me seriously and did it. So that's why.
And I think if I may, Vice Mayor Trevette, to answer your question about the other property, the main issue we were having with the commercial there was, I think that's the only item we wanted to clarify with BOC between now and second reading was, we know there's been projects in the past where there's been commercial that are coming in as part of the same development and that commercial not being completed. And the alternative with the C of O's, that's really brought that other project to a standstill because the rooftops drive the commercial doesn't drive the rooftops. So a lot of the contention we're having is, well, we want to build commercial, but we want the townhomes to be there. And the townhome builder is worried about having to be stopped after so many units to not be able to finish a community. So they don't want a half finished community. So our concern here, and our understanding was that is a typical means of enforcement to utilize C of O's to enforce certain conditions in projects. And we tried to think of an alternative that is already something that's enforced and is in place as a means of enforcement. And our alternative was to utilize the development letters of credit. As you all know, that's real money. That's on an insurance policy like a bond. We have to carry that debt until we meet all the conditions of release with the city. And we apply for release of that just like we would a bond. And that sits at a local bank in Wilson County, held until we meet the requirements mandated by the city. So we were proposing to have our development letter of credit held until the commercial goes vertical, as opposed to having it tied to a C of O to allow not only for the community to be built out and allow that marketing window for the home builder, but also allow those rooftops to be put in place to support not only schools, but to support that commercial build out as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to hear from our Public Works Director, Mr. Matt White. Just have a question about, I touched on this just briefly, I guess, during the Planning Commission about I think it was Road A.
Yeah.
And do you have any concerns with that one? I think it's drawn, I think there was a comment voiced that it was going to be a turn lane in that, but do we have that captured?
Come on.
Yes, sir.
Come on. Okay. Yeah, due to the uncertainty of how the commercial will lay out within that out parcel area between Road A and Road F, it's unsure because they're not really showing a draft layout of that commercial area. Those commercial businesses will likely have accesses to Road A, which will require a left turn lane into those. So it makes sense to just go ahead and make Road A a 3-lane road from Lebanon Road to the roundabout, just so you can plan for those left turns and get those out of the through lanes and make the traffic flow better on Road A.
Okay. Is there any objection to requiring Road A to be a 3-lane? I think I have an objection here, so I'll make a motion for Road A to be a 3-lane. Was that second? Okay, got it on there. I'll give you the floor if you like.
The only issue I've got with that is that we're talking about affecting a piece of property that is not within their project. So how does that work?
How are they getting approval to build Road F?
Glad I didn't have to ask that.
Do I?
How's the road going to be built, period?
Well, again, I mean, I'm assuming, and I haven't talked to anybody regarding this, but I'm assuming that they're saying, okay, well, we're going to allow you to do the road system in here so that actually gives them access to the commercial property, the people who own the property. But I mean, if this hasn't been discussed with them regarding a third lane, that seems to me like they would probably need to be involved in that conversation prior to us voting on it and requiring them. I mean, doesn't that make sense? Would you, if you owned that property, would you want that decision be made for you without having a discussion to look at alternatives?
Well, if I lived in the back, I would want that decision made before I bought back there.
I mean, it has to be approved before it's built. So, and those discussions have to come with the preliminary master development plan and then on through the final master development plan process. So, it's not the only bite of the apple. I mean, do we know? I mean, if they would be okay with a 3-lane, Nathan?
We haven't had those discussions since we first presented this plan. We've always shown Road A as a 2-lane section with dedicated left and straight lanes at the exit for southbound movements back on the Lebanon Road. And we worked with the with property owner on, I believe it's Road F. I'm having trouble reading that from here. Road F. And that is meant to be a temporary road, but with permanent access here at the roundabout. So this property has secondary access here. And then depending on how and what exactly is built out here, that would serve as secondary access to this parcel. And it would also serve as a secondary means of right in, right out, ingress, egress to that parcel. And then just depending on what they decide to do with it and where the most appropriate place is for an additional driveway cut, I would presume that would be something that would be maybe part of that commercial portion of approval if they have to extend to allow a dedicated left turn in, for example.
Rather than us require a 3rd lane in that, can we just require them to reserve the right of way at that location until it goes through the planning to determine whether or not, and what the commercial is going to be as to whether or not it's going to be needed?
Well, the original objection I heard was they didn't have the land.
No, I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying I don't know if they do. I mean, and so they don't even know what kind of commercial is going in there for them to be able to set aside, and build a road in there. So my thought is, why not go ahead and just on the 3rd lane that you're asking for, why not just reserve the right of way for that? So that if it is okay with the commercial that comes in there, then you got the right of way set aside for it.
Well, how do we require right of way?
Reserve
right of way. If they can reserve right of way, they could build a road. It seems to me like.
You don't know what the commercial is. You don't know what it's going to
Right, I
require.
don't.
And this property does not belong to the people that are building this development. So we've got a little bit of an issue there.
Let's hear from the vice mayor.
I kind of see what we're getting at here, because if we look at the actual roundabout, we've got stubs to additional properties, which is for future development. So I see what the mayor's asking for, which is basically for us to be able to look at future growth, future traffic, as well as streamlining these residents to get back and forth, as well as buses, and making it as safe as possible. We've got a lot of families to come in and out of here. So, the only thing that I'm concerned about is that, even if we look at road, I guess it's Road F, is that going to be, again, is that going to be very, like the state, minimum to get in and out, or we can be looking at that one as well. So there's a lot of concerns here, even on the backside. So I just want to make sure that statement's there, because that's some concerns, obviously.
Can we ask
future growth?
This road is part of our PUD, so we will absolutely build this. And the goal we are trying to meet when working with this property owner here is, how do we serve what you decide to do with your property without taking away valuable land? So the way we thought to do that was with this secondary access at the roundabout, that served as an in and an out for that property off the roundabout. So they'll be able to once this is built out, say this is additional parking up here, this would allow for connectivity into this property and then right in, right out connectivity here. But this road was always intended to be temporary between here and here, depending on how they developed out the parcel here. And then to your other point, I would think if what they decided to do with this parcel necessitated a dedicated left turn in, then they could take that portion of their property that would be needed to make that dedicated left turn in to allow for safe movements, was my thought. Because we can't dedicate property that we don't own.
Well, because you're almost landlocked in that, that owner that owns 3.5 acres. Because again, because if you decide, because again, it all depends on how the businesses are held. You can be driving down the street, seeing the back of a building, which is not really good benefit.
Right. I mean, this road F here is meant to be temporary. It'll be built to city standards, but the idea is this would then be a driveway access to this commercial property, whether this is tying into a parking lot and then this section here goes away because that becomes a loading dock, for example, for a restaurant or retail. And then it would have.
Would that be a city street or would that be a private street then? Is that what you're implying?
That would be private. So the only portion that we're showing that is future dedicated right of way is what you see circled at the roundabout back to here.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That is completely unacceptable. Any road that goes in, we have to have two ways in, one way in, one way out.
Absolutely.
You got to have those two roads. And now you're telling me that one of those roads is going to be temporary and could become a future loading dock for a restaurant, and that's not going to work. So that's not going to work.
Nathan, I appreciate
I'll
trying to
just-
explain this,
sure.
but the more we talk about this, the more confused I'm getting on.
I'm
what I
going to
thought
ask
I
for a
knew.
deferral, Mayor, of 2 weeks.
I'll second that. Let's defer it to the next meeting. I know you, Nathan, I know you called, but it's just been blown up today.
It's the road's being built.
Quite honestly, I wouldn't have even asked about this until we started discussing it.
Yeah, I want this ironed out before we vote on it. So.
Is there any any comments on the advisement of deferral? All in favor of deferral for one meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're deferred one meeting. Next item on the agenda is 10.7, an ordinance amending Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the Zoning Regulation Ordinance 2001-29, adopted October 8, 2001, as amended by amending Section 2, 103, Definitions of the Land Use Activities, Section 3, 103, Detailed Activities Listed, and Section 6, 102, Uses and Structures to permit breweries and microbreweries in select commercial districts.
Motion.
A motion? And a second? Any questions or comments on 10.7? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 10.7 carries on first reading. And 10.8, review the zoning ordinance amending Article 6 Commercial Districts Regulations, Section 6, 102, Uses and Structures, Misuse, Remove Restricted Area.
Motion.
Motion?
Second.
And a second. Any questions or comments on 10.8? All in favor of 10.8, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 10.8 carries as well.
That was yes.
The next ordinance is 10.9, an ordinance to waive sewer tap fees for portables at Mount Juliet Middle School and to waive the construction of a greenway that runs along Stoner Creek between West Wilson Middle School and Stoner Creek Elementary.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Thank you for a second, even though I couldn't say the word elementary, but thank you. The item is on the table. Any questions or comments on this before? Commissioner Mullally.
Okay. Regarding the sewer tap fees, so in case you didn't know, the portables that from West Wilson Middle that were servicing Stoner Creek Elementary prior to the tornado, the portables are finishing out their lease at Mount Juliet Middle, which was only to be temporary. And the schools want a new sewer tap for Mount Juliet Middle. So the law states that additional taps have to be paid for. The school has already paid for capacity fees, which is the fee that Metro charges to send the stuff on, and for city manpower for doing the work. So what's left is payment for the sewer tap. By law, it needs to be paid. I do not support the waiver on that. So we can make the rounds if you want, and then I have other comments on the Greenway.
I have a motion to make on this one, and that's a motion to divide the question. Second, I got a, so we'll take the two items separately. I am going to have to open it up, the actual document here, which is the ordinance here, which is ordinance to waive the sewer tap fees at the portables of Mount Juliet Middle Schools and waive construction of the greenway that runs along Stoner Creek West Wilson Middle School and the Stoner Creek. So what we'll do is we will consider the sewer tap fees separately. There's no objections. I take those first. All right, hearing no objection. We had a motion and a second to divide the question. Any questions, comments on that? All in favor of dividing the question, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're on the sewer tap fees. And you spoke. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Commissioner Justice.
Now, I apologize for not having the exact number right in front of me. Do we have the exact amount on what the cost is associated with that?
Shane, you want to step in the hot seat?
I think Mr. Haddix has maybe already done the figures on this. He's
We have represent-
13,675.
13,675. Is that what you said?
Oh,
375.
13,375.
13,375.
all right.
Okay. My next question, do we know how much of that is actual cost to the city?
$3,000 was the actual manpower cost work to put the tap in.
In the ground?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Per? Is it, so out of, so 10,375 is for what?
That is the fee that is set forth based on the meter size indicated in the plans. So the sewer tap fees are based on the water meter selected from West Wilson. So those fees are calculated off of that. Because sewer usage is based on water usage.
Right, I get that. But so we're talking about $10,375 though. I can see, I know what you're saying, that it's based on that, but what does that pay for? I guess is what I'm looking for.
That is the
Is that for,
rights.
does it pay for a meter, or is that the water meter we rely
No, no.
on? Right.
That fee, that 13,375, is the rights plus the work to use Mountain Juliet City Sewer, as set forth in the sewer fees that have been passed at the
So
state
the
level.
$10,000 is a privilege tax, basically, is what it amounts to.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't say that, but that's but that's what it amounts to.
Is that fee being passed on to Metro, or is that something we keep in house?
That fee is what we keep in house.
Okay, so it's our fee for the operations.
Yes, sir.
So it's not ongoing costs that if we waive this, are we going to take money out of the sewer fund to reimburse Metro the difference?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's kind of where I was getting at, Shane. I didn't mean to, but it's just.
Let's hear from the vice mayor.
I'm just curious, is there a maintenance or anything like that that's going to be pushed back to the city or back to the department that's going to be a cost for us?
No, sir, that's already been paid for.
Okay, so this is just a pass through. Okay.
We've already installed a tap with the inclination that the tap would be plugged or abandoned after this portables are no longer in use, which they said this school year.
Sure. And you said the 3,000, about $3,300 is the cost back to us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, $3,000 is what we charged in the so the total that was paid, it's already been paid by the school system, is $10,915. $3,000 which went to the work to complete the job. The rest of that money goes to Metro for waste going into the collection system.
So there is a fee for Metro that's
Yes.
going to hit us.
They've already paid that, correct?
Okay.
That was
Sure.
the capacity fee, yes, sir.
So there should be maybe a possible credit of what, about 3,300? Is that what? I understand that, but if you got 13,375, you're saying that 10,000 is the charge, well, a little over 10,000.
No, the capacity fee is in addition to that $13,375,
Okay.
which is, doing the math, that capacity fee is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000.
So they've already paid that 7,000. So the
Yes,
total
sir.
of the two then would have been $20,000 basically, and then
Yes, sir.
this 13,375. Mayor, I apologize for jumping in, but I'm trying to get this straight in our heads collectively. So the 13,375, 3,000 of that is the actual tap fee, leaves $10,375. Correct?
Excuse me, can you repeat your question, Commissioner?
It's more of a statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to. But of the 13,375 out of that 20, so 3,000 of that is the tap fee, which leaves $10,375.
What we calculated, and this was only for the school systems in a emergency situation to utilize those portables, was a pass-through fee that goes to Metro and the cost of the city employees to do the work to install the tap.
So there is no credit going back to the city for $10,000 that we're just putting it back into our funds. Is that correct?
No.
So the city's not making a dollar. It's just basically it's a pass through. It's correct?
No.
That is correct.
That's what I
Vice
thought.
Mayor. That's what we.
That's not what you just said.
No, the capacity fee is a separate charge. The tap fee is a separate charge. What we did was charge the capacity fee, and we charged a fee to do the actual work, even though that fee is a higher value than what we ultimately charge Metro or the school system. Excuse me.
So what credit could we give back to the school system without taking a loss to our citizens? Is the question that the mayor and I, or I'm sorry, the commissioner and I are trying to figure out.
It would be the difference in that $10,000. $10,375 is what ultimately we're here to see that either be waived or paid by the school system per our.
So I'll make a
billing.
motion to waive the fee for $10,375.
I second that.
Okay. Got a motion is second on that. So the motion is to waive $10,375,000.
$75.
$370. I got everybody excited, didn't I? $10,375. The
Correct.
motion and
So it's
second,
ultimately
correct?
everything. We're basically just
It'll be a
to
wash.
correct. Yeah, they've already paid their fees. They're done. That's
Okay.
basically what y'all are saying.
Thank you.
That's, yes, and that was, I guess, what I was wanting to get at is there was no money coming out of the existing fund that we're going to have that the other users would have to make up in some way. If we're just waiving this fee, then if we're not having to pay that to Metro, that's what I want to make sure of.
Just want to clarify this. Starting to get into word soup here. The school system has already paid $10,915.
Tap fees or capacity?
Capacity fees and a partial tap fee, if you want to call it that.
How?
The tap fee includes the right to the sewer and the work involved to install the tap.
Sure.
When we went to Wilson County Schools, we charged them the amount that would not put the city under to do the work. That's where the $3,000 of that $13,375 came from.
So what you're saying is that there's still an outstanding amount that's due around 3,000?
Outstanding amount due of $10,000.
So, and we're going to waive that. That's what our motion is.
Yes.
Great.
Again, we got
I didn't hear you, sir.
I
We
said
get-
that, and we're waiving our motion, and second was to waive that 10,000.
Correct.
So they don't have to pay that.
let's hear from our
Well, we got two engineers and a lawyer.
Yeah, I think some of the confusion, maybe the ordinance says waive, and is it a credit?
It would be a credit.
Can we get something from Mick? Thank you.
Rather than deal with the numbers, if you wish to waive any fees or do anything along those lines, say those fees, which will not result in a loss or cost to the sewer fund and the city of Mount Juliet. My understanding that 10,000 was calculated based on real honest to goodness work done.
Yes.
Right. So you can't give back money that's you
Correct.
spent.
In effect, it would be a credit because they're not having to come back and pay any more additional fees for the tap. We've already been paid. The city's already been paid for the work and the pass-through cost to Metro.
Okay, so I guess, Mr. Marquetti, I need to retract my motion, and then I need to restate it that my motion will be to, well, first of all, Commissioner, do you?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Marquetti, can you help clarify the wording that we can clear this all up?
I've got written down, waive those fees not resulting in a loss or cost to the sewer fund.
Okay, that's my motion. Is there a second?
Yes. Second.
Okay,
Well, he said.
thank you.
And Commissioner Mullally is asking for the floor.
I would like to hear the justification for your motion.
Well, first of all,
Vice Mayor.
Sorry, Mayor. My apologies. So the justification for this is, first of all, is that our school district right now has actually gone through multiple, delays with this development, along with the tornado, along with, the schools, and they are on a tight budget, just like the city is. So if we have an opportunity to give back to our students, as we have done in the past, then I would like to be able to make sure that we can be able to show some type of justification to support our schools.
Not West Wilson Middle.
That is Mount Juliet Middle.
Well,
And-
then,
But it all still comes out of the same piggy bank.
I would like to amend your motion
Mhm.
and have that 10,000 whatever dollars to go toward the Greenway if it were to pass, and if it doesn't pass, that it would go toward security.
I think our attorney is going to say we can't take sewer funds and use it for,
But there's no 10,000 to give
Yeah.
back to anybody. That disappeared. What is now in place is to not charge those fees that would result.
Correct.
Okay, well, I withdraw that then.
All right, any other questions or comments on the motion? All right. All in favor of the amendment to waive those fees not resulting in a loss or cost to the sewer fund, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, it is once amended by a vote of 3-1. We're back on the ordinance to waive the fees as amended one time. Any other questions or comments?
The sewer.
The sewer,
We're
yes.
still on the sewer.
Yes, ma'am. All right, all in favor of of the ordinance for the sewer fees as amended one time, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right. That carries by a vote of 3-1. We did divide the question, so the next will be to waive the requirements to construct the greenway that runs along Stoner Creek between West Wilson School and Stoner Creek Elementary School. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion? Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
There's a second. All right, we're on the ordinance as split to waive the requirement for the greenways. Vice Mayor, you're recognized.
Yes, obviously I've been in discussion with many folks pertaining to the board as well as the school board. I just want to highlight, obviously, my biggest concern, obviously there's been this, some discussion about funding. There's been some discussion about security. My biggest concern obviously has always been the safety of our students, whether or not if this greenway continues. I understand there's a plan in place. There is a development that is potentially going to be coming up behind these schools, which is a concern of mine, obviously, if we put the greenway behind there. But also there is some concerns when it comes to our school. Obviously, they have their own contingency plan. And by us forcing anyone to split properties, especially when it comes to an easement or a walking path, that becomes the norm. Think about that. That becomes the norm with people just walking through that property. It's normal to see people walking through. And as big as I am about our students getting to and from school walking, I'm a big fan of sidewalks. I'm a big fan of anything that's going to give them an opportunity to get to the school and walk and encourage good health. The only thing I don't want to do is put our school board as well as the director into a situation where we dictate their safety program. That's the last thing that I ever want to do. So I do ask the board, and that's the school board and also the director, to consider another alternative and working behind the scenes with the city as well as the county to look at other alternatives when it comes to these greenways, whether if it's in our city or outside of our city. It's always best practice for us to make sure that we have a plan in place for our students to have good health. That's what we always promote. But when it comes to safety and security, us putting a path down the middle is something that I'm not in favor of. So last thing I ever want to do is just tell that school board or the directors on what their contingency plan is going to look like when it comes to their safety program. And that's not my place. So I just want to make sure I've made that public. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this before we vote? Commissioner Justice?
I've been going over this and yeah, I've talked to numerous people throughout the community. There is no one that I have met so far that has told me that this is a good idea. We went through the process of a few years back when the tornado hit. We waived the fees for the residential development. I think most of you will remember that. And a lot of the insurance companies came through and then they were able to let the houses get brought back. They did that without paying us any fees during that process. So, and I'm going around the world to get to the main piece here. We have, and I had conversations with Mr. Luttrell about the security of our school systems. And talking to him, and I think I'll see if he'll nod his head here in a second, but I think he would agree that if we could take and put a fence around every school in our city or in our county, he would probably be all for that. Would you not, Mr. Luttrell? Okay. What I have come up with is an idea. We had talked about the waiving the fees at one point for the school system, and I'm assuming those are review fees and things of that nature. Shane, is that correct? It's about 168,000, I think, is the number that I was given. Mr. Luttrell, is that correct? Okay.
Can you, Joe,
Please.
come, Mr. Addicks?
Good evening again. So on the Stoner Creek rebuild, just for Stoner Creek, the site plan review fee, the BZA fee, the sewer tap fee, and the sewer capacity fee were waived by the city. I believe we did pay a stormwater plan review fee, stormwater inspection fee, and building permit fees for a total of $81,132.62.
Okay, and that is the only fees at this point. And these are building review things of that nature, but we're not talking about tap and capacity fees mixed
Tap
in.
capacity had previously been paid, and since it was a build back, not increasing the core capacity of the school, the sewer fees did not increase.
So what we're talking about is 81,000 approximately.
Yes.
Those are the fees that the school system would owe the city. I don't know if Mr. Luttrell has you.
Is that paid to, those were paid to the city as part of the, those were previously paid to the city as part of the Stoner Creek rebuild.
You said 82?
81,132.
And you said that city waived those?
No, those were the fees that were paid to the city. $81,132.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Mr. Luttrell, were you able to do any, I don't mean to spring this on you, but were you able to get any prices on the fencing that we had?
We have not, and that
Okay.
is something we're looking. We did part of that project. You fenced down the right side of the drive, and then the back side where our playgrounds are out. We did clean out the creek as part of that, and we will be looking at putting a fence up. I mean, that's the one thing that we are told, that we have to secure perimeters of these buildings. I mean, that's the basis step in providing safe campuses when at all possible. And so we'll be adding that fencing at some point. We've set aside some money in our budget specifically for safety measures.
I'm going to ask, and I don't know whether they're going along with this, but I would first of all, I want to point something out. It was brought up that people can drive into that property.
They can.
And Sheriff of Wilson County, Robert Bryan, who provides the SROs for the school system, was very adamant. There is one way in and one way out. And if you build a greenway, you just provided new ways in and new ways out that you cannot control. When you stop controlling ingress and egress, you're looking for problems. My past life, I retired from the Wilson County Sheriff's Department. It was our job at that time to make sure that those schools are secure. For a city to go in and use taxpayers' dollars to charge a taxpayer paid for entity like the Wilson County Schools, I believe we were just swapping dollars out. I guess what I'm going to do here, Mr. Mayor, is I'm going to ask that we take that $81,000, I believe is what you said the fees were, 82. Now, there's additional coming from the West Wilson. And what I'd like to do is to waive those and ask that the Wilson County Board of Education apply $81,000 towards a perimeter fencing to that property.
I think those fees have already been paid.
Now, there's 81,000 that has not been paid, is what I was just told. There's 81,000 that was paid. And that for the whole project or for West Wilson or and Center Creek? So you don't know about the West Wilson project?
Let's hear from our attorney, please.
I'm just saying, if that's the desire of this board, then that's not what this.
It's not in the not
notice
captured
is
anywhere in the
about. This is
header.
About whether or not to require a greenway.
And that's part of what I'm fixing to finish up with here in a second.
To answer your question, the fees for West Wilson Middle, the same fees, the stormwater inspection and land disturbance permit fees, those have already been paid already.
So those have also been paid. So the total for both properties is 81,000 or
The total for both properties is closer to the original.
168.
Closer to the 160. I think West Wilson has more pavement, so their fees are a little bit higher. I can get that number and bring it back for Shane. Me and Shane can work together tomorrow.
Storm, are we talking How much was this with stormwater?
Just in stormwater fees at Stoner Creek.
That's a utility.
Can I say something? I've been on the job 2 years. I want Wilson County Schools to pay their way. I'm not up here asking for any, there was a reason for the waiving of the sewer tap because it was due to the tornado, and we had to put those there because our students were displaced. I will take responsibility for our paying our way. I appreciate, but I do know in the past history in this county that this is something that has been common when schools have been built, fees will be waived. That's in your court. My concern is simply with the school safety and what that does to us to manage school safety by having an open greenway on our campus. That is the reason I'm here. And I'm not taking this to the board because this is a day-to-day operation of safety procedures. Any requirement you pass on to me will have to go back to the board. If it requires funding, then it will have to go to the county commission because some of the things I'm hearing are not in our budget. We have set aside a couple $1 million for safety measures that I won't get into because we're looking at really upping the safety of our schools. Is that perimeter fencing at schools? Yes, we're looking at that. There's other things that we're looking to add to ensure we can provide as much safety as possible. That's why I'm here. I appreciate the discussion on the fee waiver. That should be in the planning and process. That's when that should go through if we request to do that. But so the two items were direct relation to the items I mentioned. My concern is safety. And I've talked to numerous people, the principals, myself with my experience being an administrator, an open facility with people going in and out of your campus is, and there's a fear factor of just our parents. I mean, this is going to be right there next to a playground. And so we have to take that in consideration. And that is the purpose of my request. Anything you pass on, I will take to the board, though.
I'll take that off the table then, but I do want to point out that we've got the sheriff of Wilson County who is in charge of the school security who's saying this is a bad idea. We have the director of our public school system who is saying this is a bad idea. Pretty much everybody I've talked to in law enforcement, including myself, saying this is a bad idea. And we take pride in listening to the people that we consider professionals. And for us to not listen to the people that I've just mentioned, that's a bad idea.
Commissioner Morletti?
Travis, can we get that map put up? There's two of them. The first one, I guess. All right, so that's where the greenway goes through the property, and it runs along the creek. There's woods on both sides, with the exception of right in front of the parking lot of Stoner Creek. Now, isn't it true that the playground is behind the school?
Well, it's kind of over there to the side, but you would be given access if you have an open greenway. They can go anywhere on either of those campuses once they enter your property.
Yeah, but it's not near the playground.
Well, it's not very far. If that's my 4-year-old, 50 or 75 yards is not very far. And I have not measured it, but that's just an estimate, me being around.
Is there currently a fence around the bus area, including
There
the
is.
fuel?
There
right.
is. But during the day, if you know, with our busing, that is an open facility and has to remain open with all the ongoings.
All right.
At night, can be locked.
Is there a current fence around those practice fields?
There is a 4-foot fence, I think, on the football field. And then, of course, you have normal fencing for your baseball and softball. But is the entire area? No. You have access right off that road
All right.
to all of that.
Is there a fence around the playground?
Back here in Stoner Creek, yes, we do have fencing around there.
There is fencing. Well, I have comments, I guess, if no one else has anything.
Cool.
Okay. I appreciate the comments and input from Director Luttrell, and I myself have also spoke to the Zone 3 School Board official Melissa Lynn. So I do understand the concerns about budget and safety. In my conversation with the director, he said that it is not in the budget, and of course, the safety was an issue. The Covenant school shooting has come up in conversation. As horrible as it was, the female shooter drove to the school. She did not carry her arsenal of weapons by foot through a greenway. There is not one thing that stops a school shooting today from happening except for the locked doors once at the entry point, which is good. So there's nothing right now on any school property stopping anything from happening. So to use the argument of safety concerning the fuel tanks, which was brought up in our conversation, where the buses are kept, that area is fenced off. Therefore, using this as an example of safety concern does not apply, in my opinion, to the safety argument. If it did, other measures would have already been put in place to better secure the area. The greenway would have no effect one way or the other, in my opinion. To use the argument of safety with the current situation, the road is open. Anyone can drive their vehicles or walk right up to the school, any school, whether in the county or the city limits. So using the issue of safety as a reason not to do the greenway, in my opinion, does not apply to the safety argument, since the schools are accessible by foot or vehicle. Using the argument of safety, it's my understanding that all of our schools across the county have safety measures in place when it comes to entering the schools, including an SRO in each of our schools. So this is great, and I commend those who have put this in place. That definitely is needed. There's still an issue of the road for me. If someone in the future walks down the greenway with their arsenal of weapons on foot, more than likely they're going to be seen and 911 is going to be called. Once the perpetrator approaches the school, they can't get in. They can't get in. The only way to totally secure the school property is to completely fence it off, which includes the roads, but that's not going to happen because the road has to stay open. Since April of 22, a year and a half ago, in the initial submittals, the greenway condition was included. Every submittal, meeting, and conversation since then has included this greenway. The Mount Juliet BOC approved the master greenway plan and the comprehensive transportation plan in recent years that included this greenway. In addition, our code ordinance that was approved states that any property to be developed where the master greenway plan crosses that property, the greenway must be constructed and paid for by the developer. The Wilson County School System agreed to this in the planning process as a condition when we approved their plan. They agreed to it. McFarland, the property behind it, we approved a connection, a walkway to the school system so that the kids can walk to school. We all complain about traffic. Traffic is an issue. If we don't have that walkway, people are going to have to get in the cars and put extra traffic burden on the road system, including the school traffic. I also serve on BPAC, which is all about connectivity throughout the city. This greenway would eventually connect under the interstate for a long-term plan. I think, I don't know, perhaps it might be more to do with the budget than safety, although safety definitely is a real issue. So I don't recall anyone having issues with the bridge connection off Southeast Springdale behind Rutland Elementary that leads to the school on school property where kids walk to school. I don't recall anybody having issues about that. It's on school property. I support the greenway. There has been alternative suggestions of who pays for it and alternative locations and all that, which I'm not opposed to. One being the school can donate the right-of-way to the city, therefore the greenway would not be on school property. So whatever we decide on that, I'm open to. But the bottom line for me is the greenway needs to be built. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do you want to respond?
I would, and it is with safety, and it's not in our budget. It's not that we couldn't work that in our budget. I would just have to get in there and dig and go back to the county commission, who then would have a say-so and allow us to move money. I do want to mention, I've heard a lot about what we've said we would do. I asked today for any documentation where we had signed. This got brought up to me. Of course, this is a big team, and we was trying to get as much out of the ground as quick as possible, and I have a team that handles most of that. And it was brought to my attention early on, said they're going to approve everything, but they want you to commit to a greenway. And I said initially in a meeting, and I think Joe was present, I would not be for a greenway through the middle of a school. What I'm looking at here is plans that were stamped approved September the 21st, 23rd. I can't see it. 21 approved plans that do not include a greenway. That's what I presented to our board and what we acted on. If something else was said, I would like to see that. I was called to a meeting 3 or 4 weeks ago where it was put on the table, and I said then that I was not for it. As for safety, there's also a state statute that says when any person comes on school grounds during school hours, they have to have business on school grounds. And that is a real problem for me as running the school. We want people to report to our office so we can help them, assist them, and see with that. And that is in statute, and I feel comfortable with that statute of how we've operated as part of our safety plans of our schools. It has been for a long time, I think since '09.
I have, I guess I got a different way of looking at this in a sense that isn't the only, and this maybe this is a question for staff. I guess it really is. The reason the greenway is being required is because there's being additional construction going on the property in excess of just rebuilding. Is that, I'll give you the mic. Is that correct?
That is correct. When West Wilson Middle School was rebuilt bigger and not to the same similar footprint as it was before. So it was in essence a redevelopment of a school with increased capacity.
So were there any previous plans to enlarge these two buildings before 2020 in the
can't
works?
answer that. I was not here and had no discussion. The reason they were, when we got to developing these plans and looking at the growth of this city and counties encouraging, it made a lot of financial sense to add student seats while we were building.
Because you're rebuilding.
And that's what it was. It's still the same function. And I think the core capacity may be similar. Just we've added classrooms, which would give us more space.
I guess that's what I'm getting at right there. This greenway wouldn't even be in discussion across this property had your two schools not got wiped out by a tornado. And maybe that's not a fair statement. Maybe it is, but that's kind of the way I see this. If it hadn't been for the tornado, we wouldn't even be here tonight discussing this. But my other concern on this is walkability to our schools.
Absolutely.
And I heard one way in, one way out. And I don't know if that's an official term or whatnot, but I know you have multiple buildings with multiple ways in and out, and the local drivers appreciate that. And for efficiency and flows and getting your buses in and out, I'm sure they appreciate that too. So I don't know if that was a literal statement that was made about one way in and one way out. We have some other schools that have ability, and I know the commissioner referenced that, and that's a school that's near and dear to me. But there is walkability to that one. And when it comes to securing the buildings, I for whatever it's worth, I have no say in this, but whatever it's worth, I just beg everyone to just consider walkability to get people in and out of these things, keep as many cars off the road as we can.
And let me say, I've been full support of a greenway that would allow our kids to walk and then have control. But this greenway splits the campus. That's my biggest concern.
And that's kind of where I'm going at this. If if there's some option that we can come up with, and I know a portion of this greenway is going to go under construction with the development that's coming up soon. It's been approved at least to come through. I'm not sure if that parcel directly north of it's included in it. I don't have that memorized, but I believe that parcel, if it's not included in that parcel is one of them that's for sale. But I think in short term, there will be the options for people to walk. There will be a development there just to the north of it. And I would just love to see all the options available for those new residents that are going to live
Sure.
there, just right through the woods to be able to get to
And
the
let me
school
say,
as easy as possible.
I have met with that developer and we discussed a walk-through gate. It would be how we man that. Makes perfect sense for those. That helps everybody if we can walk them across. So we're all open to all that.
Okay. I really struggle to just uphold a greenway. That's the only reason we're in discussion on this section of it. If we hadn't had the tornado that leveled these two schools, we wouldn't even be here tonight. And it feels wrong in a sense to dig into a greenway. It's really only reason that we're even discussing it is because two schools got wiped out from a tornado. And if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't even be here. Anyone else? Mr. Mullally.
I have two things. One, Gino, can you address the director's statement? I assume you're talking about the Tennessee Code Title 49, Part 20.
I don't think it's Part 20. I don't have it in front of me. I sent it out today.
496-2008,
Real quick.
where it talks about school property, persons improperly on school premises.
Section A. Is there a Section A?
Uh,
What's that read? I can pull it up.
The one I have is Part 20 of school property, 496-2008, persons improperly on school premises.
And they have to be there on school business.
That's right.
Right. If the school agrees or grants an easement or the city builds a fence to separate the greenway, then, or if the school agrees to allow it and say having a greenway on our property benefits our school, then that statute doesn't apply. Because it's with the agreement of the school, whether their students use the greenway for nature walks or the faculty and staff use it for lunch breaks or whatnot. So anyway, there's a way around that is what I'm saying. It's not absolutely.
Travis, can you put up the next map? All right, this one I'm not totally understand, but these were some options looked at. Shane, can you go over these?
Yeah, this was just something I came up with as an option, not the option.
Okay, so where's the school currently? Can you get the pointer?
Oh, there it is. There we go. So this neon green line is part of the comprehensive greenway plan that was approved by the city. One option that was talked about, or if it was decided not to build, so right here is Stoner Creek, right there. There's the creek itself, the ball fields, middle school. School director, I believe the playground is back here, correct?
Yeah, we've got a couple of playgrounds on that site.
There's an area right here and a playground back there. So if you guys have decided to vote again or waive the greenway requirement, it could be made a private development come around to circumvent the school site to carry on the greenway because per our ordinances and zoning ordinances, greenway shown on a comprehensive greenway plan or future greenway plan that come across a site subject to development is required by the developer to be built. So what I drew here was a route that could circumvent the school site, but yet be very close to a playground. We would have to work with other private property developers to make sure the school is protected and safe, but this is just an example to show what we would have to do and require per our ordinances for a greenway to be built. And that could be also a safety consideration or a factor of safety that could really be detrimental to the school system, because now there's no say unless we would have to then dictate where the greenway goes on their property. So when they would argue that the greenway was never supposed to be on their property, then it comes into another Pandora's box of development if this property were to ever develop.
So the concern is if it's not built there, that you may never connect the two pieces of your greenway based on what we have in code now.
Potentially, yes, sir.
Could we amend the plan?
Not being part of when the plan was made initially, we'd probably have to revisit that, of course. I would think you could. I think you could, but I'd have to revisit that.
Okay. Did you? Does anyone else have any questions? Commissioner Justice?
Again, I've got a little bit of a problem, as we talked about, and you said it yourself, the fact that the tornado created this whole thing. And we just took money from the school system, which are our taxpayers, and we just paid to the city, which are our taxpayers. So we swapped the money out basically from taxpayer to taxpayer, which is about stupid. The definition of bad government, as far as I'm concerned. So I apologize that you're even going to go through this, Mr. Luttrell. We waived the tornado fees for all the residences over there that rebuilt, but we chose not to do that to the school system. I think it's ignorant. As far as access to the schools, anytime you increase access, you increase the odds of something happening that you don't want to happen. Be perfectly honest with you, I'm a little bothered that we're even having this discussion about school safety, given the fact that we just had a school shooting in Nashville. If it wasn't on the forefront to begin with, it ought to be now because it's in our face. It just happened. And for us to sit here and be having a conversation that would allow additional access to a school system, and additional access for some nut job to come walking onto the school property and potentially hurt our children, I think for us to even have this conversation is ridiculous. We should, at this point, be doing everything in our power to lock down these schools to the degree that we lock down our prisons. It amazes me that we take and put criminals in and we protect them, don't let them get out, but we're not willing to spend the kind of money that we have spent to keep prisoners in to keep our school children protected. I mean, that's kind of a screwed up priority. Tells me we're worried more about the prisoners than we are the children. And then we're going to sit here and have a conversation about opening up the school campus so that somebody could potentially get onto the property and hurt these kids. I'm a little bit amazed that we're even having this discussion. I'm going to ask that we let's move forward, and we waive the need for this Greenway plan. Let's just be done with this, get it over with, and get it off of the conversation, get the conversation off of the school system, so we can go on to something that makes a little more sense, please.
I just thank you, Ms. Hamlin, for getting this. Just got the plan here, and all of your red line across the top there is already plotted for development. So you're not going to go north of the school. But
This right here.
no, over just north of the school, your dotted line, red dotted line coming off there. Yeah, you're going right through the middle of people's living rooms. It's already approved. So you'd have to go further north and follow the creek down. I apologize this is taking so long, but I want to know what we're getting into. I want to come right around here. You come here. Just pull a chair up. Is there a possibility of catching this down? Sorry, I can't see that. No. Because this is your existing path. And you drew a line
Yeah,
right
I
here.
don't see a problem with that, coming like this and then tying back down.
Okay. Let you have a look too, Mr. White.
I apologize, that's not seen that.
Yeah.
That plan. Yeah, and then when this develops, it just comes back this way and ties back down.
I was going to ask for a road there anyway. All right. Staff has confirmed there is an actual way around, despite the fact that it's going to require some stuff to develop over to the side. But we own the plans now where the red line is drawn, that there is a T off the greenway that's, yes.
And how far? Sorry.
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
Shane, so can you elaborate on just ballpark? Obviously, I'm not going to hold you to it, but how many, let's just say feet from the property line, from the existing property line for the school, do you anticipate?
That could be negotiated because since we have nothing here right now, we could dictate that distance, correct, Matt?
Sure.
Yeah, that distance can be negotiated.
So is there any way we can make sure that we stay aligned with the school board's contingency plan on safety before we even present anything? We can make sure we get their 100% support as well as any recommendations that they give us?
Yes, sir.
And I'll be willing to work with that developer because there needs to be, we could do a walk-through gate.
Yeah.
For those community
Yep.
there.
As long as we don't breach any type of security. Yeah.
Just curiosity, while the mayor's talking about this, how would you secure that?
Well, you could use the old chain and lock, but there's also some other mechanisms out there with cards and things that we could do. And that's the whole thing. When people are on campus, we would have to basically place an EA, place a person to certain hours in the morning. You can walk your kids to school. We will man that. Afternoons dismissal, we would man that, make sure they're off campus, and then secure the gate.
There's studies that have been done as far as the gate.
Yeah.
That still shows that a gate, even though it's locked, it's still,
yeah,
there's some issues involved. So I'm just curious about that.
You want Mr. Addix is showing a potential alternative for a piece that's already stubbed out.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
It's not on us.
So that relieves my fears that we would potentially have a greenway that could never connect back. So we've got that opportunity as that develops. I believe those parcels are for sale. One of them is, at least. The other one that's south of it, I don't know if it's for sale or not, but there wouldn't be a greenway built on it until it is. So I don't see us being any worse for wear either way or the other. And if that'll relieve your concerns, I can support that as long as we got a plan where we're not boxing ourselves out and we can still provide some opportunities for walkability. All right. We ready to vote?
So we are voting on waiving.
Yes.
Correct.
No amendments that I recall.
Okay.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. That carries. The requirements waived.
Thank you.
Well, that carries on first reading. Be factual here. All right. I'll make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Wait a minute.
There is.
10-10.
There is. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
No.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Adjournment fails. We'll move on to our last item, which is 1010, an ordinance of the city of Mount Juliet to amend the city of Mount Juliet Code, section 28-196, prohibited parking. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, it's on the table. It's under your sponsorship, Commissioner. You have the floor.
Yes, sir. I'd like to point out why I've had sponsored this. It seems that we have had some issues resolved regarding people parking in manners that were not acceptable and blocking sidewalks and things of that nature. We've had some theories that have been presented that are legal theories that it's outside of my realm of expertise, but nonetheless, they have been presented. I wanted this conversation to take place so the people would better understand why that they were getting parking tickets, even though they were parking in their own driveway, allegedly. Okay. What I have found from talking to Mr. Marchetti is that these people, while they may be parking in their driveways, they are parking actually inside of, and Ms. Marchetti, you're going to have to clear, there's right of way. Is that correct? City right of way where the sidewalks are.
Without looking at the plans, but I'm assuming that if there's a sidewalk, that it's within our right of way and their driveway, they're not quote parking on their driveway, they're parking on public property.
And the
Their
public property being
their driveway
sidewalk.
ends at their property line. So they're not parking on their driveway if they're blocking a sidewalk.
So the entrance to your parking, and myself, and I think Commissioner Mullally had some issues over in her district as well, where people were blocking the sidewalks, and there were some ADA compliance issues that came up as a result, some questions that were being asked. Now, I was actually, it was suggested that we put this up as a discussion item. I wanted to leave it on here as an ordinance, and we can take it off after we've had some discussion on it, but I wanted to make sure that everyone understood what has happened here is that people are parking in their driveways. They are crossing the city right of way to get into their driveways. And that city right of way being a sidewalk, if you were blocking it with any part of your vehicle, you were subject to get a citation. Most people don't realize that. Most people don't even question that when they actually move into a subdivision. So if your rear of your vehicle is crossing that sidewalk and you're blocking it and someone complains, you are subject to get a ticket. Is that correct, Mr. Marchetti?
Correct. That is a state statute. It makes it a Class A misdemeanor to block a sidewalk.
Class A misdemeanor to block a sidewalk. Now, there was some conversation that I had with another attorney. We were talking about ADA compliance and such, and they said as long as reasonable accommodations were being made for someone who, for instance, was in a wheelchair or disabled and could not get off of the sidewalk. But for instance, in our case, that we were making those accommodations where somebody could, maybe go out into the road and go around meander to get to the next section of sidewalk that was not blocked at 10 o'clock at night, as opposed to during the course of the day, that might be considered a reasonable accommodation. Is that anywhere near being accurate?
The ADA requires compliance and to not discriminate against anybody with a disability. And if they complain, then you have to offer a reasonable accommodation. So I don't know what reasonable accommodation you can make for someone who's in a wheelchair coming down a sidewalk, who's then required to go out into the street or over a curb, which would not be a reasonable accommodation, at least in any court case I've seen. But that's separate and apart from the Class A misdemeanor.
Separate and apart. So if
You have the ADA is a federal statute, which has also been adopted by Tennessee. And then the second part is the state statute that makes it a Class A misdemeanor to block a sidewalk. So they're two separate issues.
So I guess the moral behind this story is just because you believe that the driveway is your driveway, it really is not your driveway. Part of the city's right of way encroaches up into, or actually moves up into your driveway and takes away your ability to park. So if you live in a subdivision where there's someone that says, or they have something in there that says you can't park in the grass, an HOA says that, and the city has a code that says you can't park on the street, but you've got a husband and wife and two kids, and they have to go to school. Those two kids drive, and you got 4 vehicles in your driveway, and there's not an opportunity to park on the street in the grass or not block the sidewalk. Is there a remedy other than selling your house and moving? Can't do that. There's no remedy.
I'm not sure unless you want to allow parking on the street.
Well, but we have this ordinance that
I mean,
wouldn't
you can
allow that.
amend that ordinance.
Yeah, do you have any idea how many
You're
times
not-
that's been tried in 20 years? I don't know.
All I'm saying is you can't amend a state statute that makes it a Class A misdemeanor, and the police are required to enforce, and they take an oath to enforce the laws of the state of Tennessee, and one of those laws is you cannot block a sidewalk.
Hmm.
I mean,
So there's no remedy.
other than allow blocking parking on the street,
Hmm.
maybe just one side of the street. I mean, I didn't make the statutes. I'm just giving you.
No,
the
I get it.
opinion.
I get it. No, I mean, and I'm not blaming you for it by any by any means. I just I think it's, you probably heard me say it 1,000 times, government at its finest. It's just ridiculous. You know, we're out looking, always trying to figure out a new way to pass a new law, and this is a result. So I'm motion to move us down just indefinitely.
I'll second a motion to defer indefinitely.
Yeah.
Is there any questions or comments? All in favor of indefinite deferral, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is deferred indefinitely. We're at adjournment. If there's no objections, we are now adjourned.